Turn to this education report. Clearly, education is important in terms of the economic and also the national security of a country. What does this report tell us that we need to know?
Well, the report, first of all, makes the case that national security is much broader than what you can do with your military forces. But of course, even there, we are falling short. We need people, human potential, people who can serve in the military, in the foreign service, in the intelligence services, people who can meet the challenges of cyber security and in critical infrastructure protection. But we also need people who can continue American leadership in innovation, creativity, technology, and that means people who can continue to take the jobs that will make us globally competitive. And of course, the United States of America, we as Americans are held together by the belief that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going. And education is the key to social mobility.
And are we falling behind?
As a country, we have to have that. Yes, we are falling behind.
You know.
American kids falling behind their peers in any number of ways. But the most important thing is we need to educate our people for the challenges of the 21st century, and our schools, unfortunately, are not doing that.
And what's necessary to make them do that?
Well, we believe that there are really three ways that we can do this. There are three recommendations in this report. First of all, that we adopt something that the governors have been working on at the state level, which is the Common Core, which is a set of skills that would be standard skills across the country. Secondly, we believe very strongly that parents have to have choices for their kids. Particularly poor parents cannot afford to leave their kids trapped in failing schools. They need better options. And finally, we believe that we should make certain that we audit with the governors, with the federal government, the progress that we're making on the skills, everything from math, science, and foreign languages to good reading skills. So that we're sure that we are meeting the demands of the 21st century.
May I turn to foreign policy, since you were the National Security Advisor to the President as well as Secretary of State? There's a lead story in the New York Times today. U.S. simulation forecasts perils of strike at Iran, sizing up Israeli attack, predictions of American casualties, and wider conflict in the region. Does that mean we better go very, very slow before we attack Iran as they approach whatever nuclear capacity they may have?
Well, certainly, Charlie, everybody understands that the use of military force comes with a lot of risks and a lot of consequences. Of course, the consequence of Iran with a nuclear weapon in the Middle East also has to be factored into this equation. And I believe that President Obama is correct on this, and President Bush before him. We cannot afford to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And so the diplomacy has got to work, and it's got to work quickly. The sanctions have got to be tightened, and hopefully the mullahs can be made to make different choices. But no one can afford a nuclear weapon in Iran.
So that means if sanctions...
It will unsettle the Middle East tremendously.
So if sanctions do not work in the end, and Iran is close to nuclear capacity, then military action should take place.
Well, the president has got to keep an option on the table, military option on the table, to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And it has to be a real military option, and the Iranians have to believe that he will use it.
Madam Secretary, real quickly on Afghanistan and what we're seeing in the wake of this horrific shooting, how does the U.S. repair its relations with Afghanistan at this point?
Well, we have to remind ourselves and the Afghan people what the Taliban was really like when they were ruling Afghanistan. It was a place of lawlessness. It was a place where women were executed for minor violations of the harshest notions of Islamic law. It was a place in civil war. And even though Afghanistan's a very tough place, they've made some progress. They've had elections. We are helping them build security forces that I believe will be reliable in the end, and that will prevent the return of the Taliban to power. And we just have to remember what Afghanistan was like 10 years ago when it was so lawless that al-Qaeda attacked the United States from that territory.
So you're saying to focus on those gains that have been made. That's the way to repair the relationship.
Yes, focus on the gains, and remember that in Afghanistan, in which the Taliban would again have a role, would be a danger to us, but most importantly, a danger to the Afghan people.
So
I think we've achieved a lot, and we need to make certain that we finish the job.
And finish the job means simply adhering to the president's withdrawal schedule?
Finish the job means that NATO has laid out a timeline. I probably wouldn't have laid out a timeline, but we have one for 2014. Now let's train the Afghan security forces. Let's diminish the Taliban's capability. Let's help the Afghan people with governance. And let's try and keep our nerve and keep moving forward, because we cannot afford to leave Afghanistan to the Taliban and to the terrorists.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, thanks for being with us this morning.
It's a pleasure to be with you.